From the horrors of Stutthof to the chilling post-war trials, the brutal executions of female Nazi guards reveal the dark truth of complicity and justice. How far should we go to hold perpetrators accountable? The Stutthof concentration camp, located in Nazi-occupied Poland, is one of the most notorious and harrowing symbols of the Holocaust. Established in 1939, it was the first camp built outside of German territory and would become the site of unimaginable suffering, death, and cruelty. While much attention has been focused on the victims and the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime, there were also individuals within the camp who contributed to the violence and oppression. Among them were the female guards, who played an integral role in maintaining the camp's horrific operations. The brutal executions of these female guards in the aftermath of the war raise important questions about justice, responsibility, and the moral reckoning of those who participated in such heinous crimes. The role of female guards at Stutthof. The female guards at Stutthof were part of the larger network of Nazi women who were involved in the regime's operations. They were primarily members of the female auxiliary units of the SS, Schutzstaffel, which included women's labor service, the SS Helferinnen, and those assigned to concentration camps. Their roles varied but were central to the function of the camp. Many of these women were assigned to work as overseers or guards in the female barracks, overseeing the forced labor and ensuring that the prisoners followed strict camp rules. The female guards were not merely passive figures. Many were directly involved in the violence that took place within the camp. They were responsible for supervising and punishing the prisoners, sometimes carrying out brutal beatings, shootings, and other acts of terror. Some of the female guards were known for their cruelty, while others were involved in the administrative aspects of camp operations, such as recording deaths or participating in the transportation of prisoners to the gas chambers. Stutthof's inmates were subjected to forced labor, malnutrition, medical experiments, and executions. The conditions were inhumane, and the guards, both male and female, helped enforce the system of dehumanization and terror. The women, often trained to enforce authority ruthlessly, were no strangers to the brutal orders given by their superiors. Their participation in these atrocities is not just a matter of complicity. In many cases, they were active agents of violence and suffering. The post-war trials and executions. After the war ended in 1945 and the Nazi regime was dismantled, the international community began to reckon with the scale of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. The Nuremberg trials, which sought to bring top Nazi officials to justice, were just the beginning of a larger process of prosecuting war crimes and holding perpetrators accountable. However, while many of the primary architects of the Holocaust were tried and executed, others who had committed lesser but still grievous offenses, such as camp guards, were also pursued by authorities. The female guards of Stutthof were not exempt from this post-war reckoning. Many of them were arrested, tried, and executed for their roles in the camp's operations. Their trials revealed a deep moral and legal complexity. How do you judge individuals who were complicit in unspeakable crimes, yet were themselves often just cogs in a brutal machine? One of the most prominent post-war cases involved the trial of several women who had served as guards at Stutthof. Among them was Irma Grese, one of the most infamous female guards in history, although she had served at Auschwitz, not Stutthof. However, Stutthof's female guards were also subjected to trials which included accusations of torture, murder, and mistreatment of prisoners. The case of the female guards at Stutthof. In the immediate aftermath of the war, as the world began to grasp the full scope of the Nazi crimes, many individuals who had served in the concentration camps, including female guards, were arrested and tried. Those convicted for their roles at Stutthof faced a range of penalties, from imprisonment to death sentences. One of the most notable trials occurred in 1947, when several women who had served as guards at the camp were convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. These trials took place in Poland, where many of the survivors and witnesses to the atrocities committed at Stutthof testified against the accused. One of the female guards who was tried and executed was Helene Hanft. Hanft, who had been a member of the Nazi Party and served as a guard at Stutthof, was found guilty of participating in the brutal treatment of prisoners, including overseeing executions and supervising forced labor. Hanft's trial drew significant attention due to the nature of her crimes and the brutality she had displayed in her role at the camp. Another notorious figure was Frieda Geller, a former SS guard at Stutthof, who had been involved in supervising the execution of prisoners, as well as the physical abuse and exploitation of female detainees. Geller, along with others, was tried for her involvement in the death of innocent civilians and prisoners of war who were subjected to unspeakable violence at the camp. The atrocities committed by her and others like her were a stark reminder of the widespread complicity that enabled the Nazi war machine to function effectively. The gendered nature of the guards' brutality. The female guards at Stutthof and other Nazi concentration camps occupied a complex and often contradictory position. On one hand, they were women who had been socialized within a patriarchal society. On the other hand, their roles in the SS and the camps required them to embody the ideals of obedience, loyalty, and cruelty that were central to Nazi ideology. Some female guards, such as Maria Mandl, a notorious SS supervisor, were known to be particularly brutal in their treatment of prisoners. Mandl, for instance, was accused of having overseen the selection process at the gas chambers and of personally supervising the execution of hundreds of prisoners. While it's tempting to think of the female guards at Stutthof as mere instruments of the Nazi regime, their involvement in the systematic violence was not purely passive. Many of these women participated in the execution process with a chilling level of enthusiasm, sometimes even enjoying the power and control they wielded over the inmates. In contrast to male guards, some female guards were thought to be even more sadistic in their approach to overseeing prisoner suffering. This sadism can be partially explained by the intersection of gender and ideology within the Nazi regime, where women in the SS were expected to uphold the ideals of racial purity and the superiority of the Aryan race, even if it meant committing unspeakable acts of cruelty. The legacy of the female guards' executions. The executions of the female guards at Stutthof, though only a part of the broader post-war justice process, underscore the moral complexity of reckoning with Holocaust perpetrators. While many of these women were found guilty of unspeakable atrocities, their trials also raised questions about the nature of responsibility and complicity. Were they mere instruments of a violent regime, or were they active participants in the horrors? The fact that so many of these women were executed after the war reflects the moral outrage that their actions provoked. Yet their executions also shed light on the challenge of applying justice to individuals who, in some cases, might have been acting under duress, indoctrination, or coercion. The brutal nature of their crimes, however, made it clear that the boundaries between victim and perpetrator were often blurred in the context of the Holocaust. For the survivors of Stutthof, the trials and executions of these female guards were a form of justice, albeit delayed. Many survivors had suffered unimaginable horrors at the hands of these guards and their fellow Nazi officers. The trials provided an opportunity for them to confront those who had once held power over their lives and to witness the accountability that had so long been denied. However, even as some of the perpetrators faced justice, the scars of their actions remained with the survivors for the rest of their lives. The brutal executions of the female guards at Stutthof serve as a reminder of the horrors that unfolded during the Holocaust and the profound consequences of complicity in state-sponsored violence. The trials of these women highlighted not only the nature of their crimes but also the challenges of delivering justice in the aftermath of such widespread atrocities. While many of these women were held accountable for their roles in the suffering of innocent people, the larger questions of guilt, responsibility, and the moral reckoning of an entire society still echo through history. The legacy of these trials and of the female guards themselves remains a powerful reminder of the importance of remembering the Holocaust and ensuring that the crimes committed during that time are never forgotten. History demands we never forget the atrocities of the past. Let us know your thoughts on these trials in the comments below, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful stories from history.